There are moments in history when ideas exist quietly. They circulate in books, in conversation, in speculation. They are discussed but never acted upon. And then something changes. The idea moves, not into the public, but into power. In the 1980s, the world was divided. Two superpowers, two ideologies, two systems locked in a silent, permanent tension. This was the Cold War, a time defined not by open conflict, but by anticipation of attack, of escalation, of something that could arrive without warning. And in that environment, one question began to take shape. Not publicly, not formally, but quietly, inside the thinking of those at the highest levels. What if the threat didn't come from Earth? Welcome back to UFO to UAP, the Disclosure Report. I'm your host, Matt Tones. Thank you for listening in. Please subscribe and share the episode, which is titled Reagan, Star Wars, and the UFO Question: Power, Perception, and the Unknown. To understand this episode, we begin with a man, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States from 1981 to 1989. A former actor, a communicator, a strategist, and importantly, a leader operating at the height of Cold War tension. In 1987, Reagan addressed the United Nations, and in that speech, he said something unusual, something that at first sounded hypothetical, but over time would be revisited again and again. He said, "Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bond." And then he made it explicit. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. This was not a private comment, not an offhand remark. This was a prepared statement delivered to the world. What does this mean? So this is where we're now going to slow down a little bit. This moment is often misunderstood. Was Reagan revealing knowledge, speculating, or using a metaphor? We really don't know. But what matters is not the answer. What matters is the introduction of the idea into the language of power. To understand why this matters, we must understand the environment Reagan operated in. The 1980s were defined by nuclear tension, rapid technological escalation, constant intelligence activity. It was the Cold War reality. At any moment, the system had to be prepared for the unknown. Missiles, new weapons, unexpected developments. The central challenge was simple. How do you detect something before it becomes a threat? This led to massive investment in radar systems, satellite surveillance, and early warning networks, systems designed to answer one question: what is out there? In 1983, Reagan introduced one of the most ambiguous programs of the Cold War, the Strategic Defense Initiative, also referred to as SDI, and is often called Star Wars. SDI was a proposal to create a space-based defense system designed to detect incoming missiles, track them, and destroy them before impact. SDI was not just a defense program, it was a redefinition of the battlefield, from Earth to space. Once you move defense into space, you're no longer just tracking missiles and aircraft, you are tracking everything. Anything that moves, emits energy, and appears unexpectedly. Now, this is where things begin to shift, because once a system is built to detect threats, it begins to detect anomalies. Objects that don't behave as expected, don't match known profiles, and don't follow predictable patterns. This is the moment where UFOs become UAPs, not unidentified objects, but unidentified phenomena, something that is observed but not understood. Now, let's return to Reagan. because his comments must be viewed in this context. A world where detection systems are expanding, surveillance is increasing, and unknown signals are possible. When Reagan speaks of an alien threat, he may not be describing extraterrestrial beings. He may be expressing something deeper, the fear of the unknown entering the system. Now, we introduce another layer because Reagan was not just a president, he was a storyteller. And this is where we enter the era of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a film that depicted government secrecy, showed UFO contact, and suggested hidden knowledge. Reagan reportedly watched this film at the White House, and after, a statement is often attributed to him. There are a number of people in this room who know that everything in this film is absolutely true. This quote is widely circulated, but not formally verified. But again, that is not the point. The point is the overlap between perception and power. During the Cold War, perception was everything. Nations didn't just compete in weapons and technology, they competed in narrative. If an adversary believes you have advanced technology, unknown capabilities, and hidden systems, that belief alone changes behavior. UFO narratives exist in a unique space. They're difficult to verify, impossible to fully dissolve, and highly adaptable, which makes them the perfect for narrative ambiguity. Now, we step back because by the mid 1980s, the United States had built something unprecedented, a system that could observe globally, detect movement, track objects across space. Not total in the absolute sense, but moving toward comprehensive awareness. When you build a system to see everything, you'll eventually see things you cannot explain. This is where we're going to step into part 2 of the episode, which I've put as the title Black Programs, Hidden Systems, and the Conditions for Anomaly. There is a version of history that is visible. It is documented, it is discussed, it is recorded in speeches, policy, and public decision making. But alongside it, there is another version, one that operates quietly, hidden behind classification, compartmentalisation, and necessity. This is the world of black programs, programs that exist without public acknowledgement, operate without visibility, and are known only to those with access. They are not unusual, they are not anomalies, they are a standard feature of national security systems because some capabilities must be developed secretly, must be tested without exposure, and must remain unknown to adversaries. And during the Cold War, this layer expanded dramatically. The Reagan era was not just about policy, it was about acceleration and technological pressure. The United States and Soviet Union were competing in speed, altitude, detection, and stealth. Each breakthrough created new unknowns, because every time a new system was developed, it introduced new signatures, new behaviors, and new patterns of movement. One of the most important developments was stealth aircraft, designed to avoid radar, reduce visibility, and operate undetected. And stealth creates a bit of a paradox. To the system, something is there, but it cannot be fully tracked, clearly identified, or easily explained, which means it appears as an anomaly. And this is where perception begins to shift. Advanced technology can look like unknown phenomena to pilots, radar operators, and observers. And when something cannot be explained, it enters a familiar category, unidentified. Now we move deeper because development is only one part of the equation. The other is testing. Where testing happens and advanced systems are tested at night in remote locations and under controlled secrecy. Examples include desert ranges, restricted airspace, and classified facilities. From the outside, observers see that these tests appear as unusual lights, sudden movement, silent flight, and rapid acceleration. The observer sees something real but does not know what it is. So the interpretation becomes speculative, and speculation feeds narrative. Now, we introduce one of the most important concepts in this entire discussion, which is compartmentalisation. It means information is divided, access is limited, individuals know only what they need to know and only what they're cleared to see. Even within the system, no single individual sees everything, which creates internal uncertainty. And this is critical because it means anomalies are not just external, they are also internal. An intelligence officer may encounter data they cannot explain, systems they're not aware of, and information that appears incomplete. And that creates interpretive gaps. At this big point, we begin to see something new, a category forming, not formally, but functionally, the unknown. Objects or phenomena that are detected are real, but cannot be identified, is what I would say defines the unknown. And this is the transition from UFO object to UAP or phenomenon, because now we're not just asking what is that object, we're asking what system produced this behavior. Now we bring everything together. Secrecy does not just hide information, it shapes perception. Observers outside the system see anomalies, unexplained events, and unusual behavior. Without context, these become mysteries. But inside the system, individuals see fragments, partial data, and incomplete pictures. Without full access, these become uncertainties. Both groups face the same issue, lack of complete information, but they interpret it differently. And now we extend this forward to today, because the systems built during the Reagan era did not disappear, they evolved. Today we have modern UAP programs like Arrow, advanced sensor networks, and integrated surveillance systems, all built on foundations created during the Cold War. What we're seeing today may not be new, it may be the continuation of systems built decades ago. Now, let's look at how this connects to our previous episodes, starting with David Grusch. When Grusch claims hidden programs exist, we must ask, when would such programs have begun? And the logical answer is, if they exist, they likely began during periods of maximum secrecy and expansion, which brings us back to the Reagan era. We now see a pattern. Cold War led to system expansion, secrecy led to information gaps, advanced technology led to anomalous observations, and the modern era led to claims that are now emerging. Now we explore what this means. Many UAP sightings may be advanced human systems seen without context. That's scenario one, and we'll label that misidentified technology. Scenario two could be system-induced anomalies, because complex systems produce unexpected outputs, which appear anomalous. Scenario three could be hidden continuity. Programs may have begun in secrecy and continue today without public awareness. Scenario four could be narrative convergence. Different elements of technology, secrecy, and observation combine to create a unified narrative of the unknown. Let's step back again. We now have a system built to detect threats, technology designed to evade detection, and secrecy limiting understanding. Observers are interpreting incomplete data. And from that, we get anomalies, not necessarily extraterrestrial, not necessarily unknown, but unresolved. And this is where we step into part three, which I've given the title Legacy, Narrative, and the Intelligence Frame. Systems do not end, they evolve. Programs are renamed, structures are reorganized, technologies are replaced, but the underlying function remains. The systems built during the Cold War did not disappear in 1989. They became the foundation of modern intelligence infrastructure. The goal remained unchanged: detect, track, and understand, but the capability has expanded from radar to satellites, multi-sensor systems, and real-time global awareness. Today, we have systems that can observe across the planet, track objects in multiple domains, and detect anomalies in real time, which means the unknown is no longer rare, it is continuously encountered. There is a paradox at the center of modern intelligence systems. The more you observe, the more you detect, and the more you detect, the more anomalies you find. In earlier decades, observation was limited and anomalies were rare. But today, observation is constant, so anomalies are frequent. And this is now a system that is always encountering things it cannot immediately explain, not because those things are extraordinary, but because the system is now operating at scale. Now we move into the public dimension, because one system evolves, so too does the narrative. Stage one, the object. And this is the 1940s through to the 1960s. UFOs are described as objects in the sky and interpreted as vehicles, craft, and possible extraterrestrial technology. Stage two is the silence era, the 1970s to the 1990s. After Blue Book official attention declines, public interest continues, the narrative becomes fragmented. Stage three, the system returns from the 2000s through to present. With modern technology, observation increases and anomalies reappear. The narrative shifts to UAP, not objects, but phenomenon. The phenomenon may be the same, but the framework is different, from speculation to structured analysis. Now, let's return to Reagan, because his role is not direct involvement, but context creation. Reagan represented a moment where fear of the unknown was high, systems of detection were expanding, and narrative was a strategic tool. His alien threat statement, revisited now, takes on a different meaning, not as literal belief, but as a reflection of systematic thinking, a system prepared for any threat, even one it cannot define. Now, we reach one of the most important insights of this episode. Narrative is not accidental. It is a strategic component of power. And it matters because perception influences behavior, policy, and response. If something is perceived as unknown, it demands attention. If something is perceived as a threat, it demands action. UFO narratives exist in a unique space. They are persistent, adaptable, and difficult to resolve, which makes them powerful. Now, we apply the final layer, the intelligence lens. Systems are built for threat, not truth. These intelligence systems do not exist to discover ultimate truth, they exist to identify and manage risk. When something cannot be explained, it is categorized, not resolved. And secrecy now creates structured gaps because information is limited, compartmentalized, and controlled, which means no one sees everything. The more a system observes, the more it encounters. Things it cannot immediately explain. So narrative fills the space between data and understanding where data exists, but explanation does not. So now narrative emerges. Now we bring it all together, from Reagan to SDI to black programs to the modern UAP. We see a continuous thread, a system designed to detect threats, encountering anomalies, which are interpreted through narrative. This is not a story about aliens. It is a story about how systems interact with the unknown. So let's explore the final possibilities here. Scenario one, the unknown is technological. Advanced systems create unexplained observations. Scenario two, the unknown is structural. The system itself produces anomalies through complexities. Scenario 3, the unknown is external. There are phenomena that do not fit existing frameworks. Scenario 4, the unknown is narrative, the combustion of observation, secrecy, and perception, creating a sustained narrative of mystery. So let's step back one final time. We now have a system built to see everything, technology designed to evade detection, secrecy limiting understanding, and observers interpreting incomplete data. And from that, we get the unknown, not necessarily extraterrestrial, not necessarily artificial, but unresolved. Reagan did not confirm UFOs. He did not reveal hidden programs, but he existed at a moment when the conditions for modern UAP narratives were created. And those conditions persist today. Because in the end, this is not a story about one man or one program or one claim. It is a story about a system built to protect itself from the unknown. And in doing so, it created something unexpected, a world where the more we see, the less certain we become. And in that uncertainty, something powerful emerges, not truth, but possibility. This is UFO to UAP, the Disclosure Report. I'm Matt Tones. Sometimes the most important question is not what is out there, but what happens when we build systems that are capable of seeing it, but not understanding it. Thanks again. Please share the episode and tell your mum about this